Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to episode 11 of the Deu Awuok Show, where it is my job to interview professional and collegiate soccer players about their life journeys around the beautiful game. On this episode, I speak with Carissima Cutrona, a former player at the University of Buffalo and MedKila, a professional team in the first division in Norway. Amongst other things, we discuss her experience starting varsity as an eighth grader, being named a two-time high school All-American, and overcoming two ACL injuries to achieve her dream of becoming a professional soccer player. Charisma's story is that of mental fortitude and resilience, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Charisma, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come talk to me today. Why don't we start with an introduction? Tell us your full name, where you're from, and an interesting fact about you.
Sure. So, my name is Carissima Cutrona. I am from Williamsville, New York, right in Buffalo. And an interesting fact about me is that I'm a school psychologist.
Nice. And when did you start playing soccer, and who got you involved with the sport?
So, I started playing right around the age of 5. I have 3 older sisters. So, 2 of them played like house league soccer growing up, and my mom would always drag me to the soccer field. So, I remember like sitting on the sideline when I was really young, watching them and just kind of always being drawn to the sport and knowing that I wanted to play. So, once I turned 5, my mom signed me up, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and I guess you started playing um, more competitively or more on an organized team with the Black Watch Premier team. When did that like happen, and how was your experience playing with them?
Yeah, so I started playing like travel soccer for Amherst Soccer Association, and then I think I started playing for Blackwatch maybe around the age of like I don't even know, maybe 12. Um, so and I just got
Hmm.
involved at the time. They were like the higher level club in the area. The youth soccer scene has changed so much since then, honestly, and since I was growing up. But like we didn't have the ECNL or any of those really major leagues in Buffalo like they are now. So at the time, Blackwatch was kind of the place to be. I played up an age group, so I was playing with older girls, which I think really only helped my development, and it created a really challenging environment for me all the time. So that's kind of how I got involved, and I stuck with them then until I graduated high school.
Nice, yeah. So in addition to playing with the Black Watch, you also played for your high school team, which was the Williamsville South, where you had an amazing career as a 5-year starter. I guess looking back right to the eighth grade year, talk to us about your thought process and emotions as you not only made varsity but were starting as an eighth grader.
Yeah, it is so funny to like think back to myself as an eighth grader trying out for varsity, and just there's like such a difference between an eighth grader and a senior in high school. So I have like the best memories from high school soccer playing at Williamsville South. I had Coach Kevin McNamara and Tony Priso as my coaches, and it was honestly such a special time in my life. We had really successful teams, but it was just so much fun. And being able to have that opportunity as an eighth grader and then kind of seeing it all the way through, the end of my high school soccer career was really special. So it was definitely a little bit intimidating, but at the same time, I feel like I was so young that I like almost didn't even think anything of it. I just wanted to play soccer and have fun with it. So I'm very thankful for the older girls on the team at the time took me in and just made it a really great environment for me.
Nice, yeah. It looks like playing up an age kind of helped with that. I guess your parents have any concerns about you, being playing with the kids that were 4 or 5 years older than you.
Honestly, none that they ever told me or shared with me. I've always been like a shorter soccer player, like so I was definitely smaller than a lot of the girls. Um, but I don't know. I think my parents just saw that it would be a really great environment, and they trusted my coaches and they trusted me and my teammates. So, they never really shared any like concerns, even if they did have them.
Nice. Yeah, it seemed like it worked out because your senior year, you led the team to a 20-1 record, winning sectionals as well as the division. And that year, you scored an insane number of goals. I think you had 40 goals, which is the school record, and also had 28 assists. Um, I guess looking back to that year, describe your emotions and what that meant for you personally, but also with the team winning the sectionals in the division.
Yeah, that year was so much fun. I know I keep saying that for like the whole career, but I really remember that year as being really special. we obviously had a very successful team, and I think we were so successful because we all like loved playing with each other and loved our coach, and you know, it was just a really positive environment. So I was successful as an individual, but you know, there's no way that I would have had that success if it wasn't for my teammates. And you know, we I that year we actually fell in regional, so we didn't make states. But my sophomore year, we did end up making
Hmm.
states, but we didn't, you know, progress farther than that. But just, you know, being able to go out my senior year with such a successful season, personally, but also, you know, more so for my team was really special. And it was kind of like the culmination of, you know, my time at Williamsville South. So it was definitely a really special moment for me.
Yeah, I can imagine it was probably the perfect way to end it. So, on top of winning a lot of local and regional awards, you were also a two-time All-American and broke the school records for both career goals and assists. You had 161 career goals, which is just bonkers to me. Like, you had a score over 100, 150 goals. 161 is crazy, and then had 61 assists, right? Both school records. I guess talk to us about your emotions. One, when finding out about the All American Award, and then two, the school records.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would say that they were pretty similar, like just so much excitement and also just like being proud of myself and my team. You know, like I've mentioned, that those years on my high school team were so special because we just had like the perfect mix of players, coaches who all got along, who really wanted to play with each other. And I honestly think that's why, like, personally, I was so successful when you're in that type of environment where like you love showing up every day to practice, to games. You're so excited and looking forward to it, and just like at the end of the day, enjoying what you're doing. I really feel like those are the best environments to play in and to be successful in your sport. So, you know, those individual awards were really special, but it really was because of just the incredible environment that I was in and the teammates that, you know, I was surrounded by every day, because it really would not have been possible without them.
Yeah, for sure. The environment makes all the difference, right? When you're having fun, you're enjoying
Absolutely.
yourself. That's when you can play your best soccer. So I'm
Hmm.
glad to hear that. I guess, how did you find out about the All American Award for the first time when you won it? Like, was it an email? How did you find out about it?
I My coach at the time, he called me and he told me, because that was, you know, the first player that he had had as being an All-American. So he was super excited too. And, you know, he told me, and I think like being so young, I'd almost like didn't even realize like kind of what a big thing it was. But, you know, when you hear the words
Hmm.
All-American, like that's, you know, it definitely catches you kind of off guard and surprised. But he was really excited and I was excited, and it was just, you know, a really happy time, I would say.
Nice. And I guess walk us through the behind the scenes like events leading up to the All American high school game, and then your experience playing in those games.
Yeah, so that was really cool. We had 44 girls from across the country who made that game. It was in, I believe, North Carolina at the time. And I like had grown up through the ODP, the Olympic Development Program. So that's kind of where, you know, the top players from the country would all go and play. So it was really interesting because at that All American game, there was a lot of the similar players. So, you know, I knew a lot of the girls and recognized them, and like we had played together before. So, but it was like a different feeling, you know, because we were all representing our high school, which, you know, at the ODP events, you're more so representing like your state and your district and, you know, things like that. But it had a little bit of a different vibe to it. But you know, I just remember being really proud and like happy to be there and kind of trying to soak in the moment, because you really, you know, I think as I had gone through my soccer career, you really learn that like you don't know when you're going to get a moment like that again. So it was just cool to be surrounded by such talent and in such competition. For the game, like the actual game, I believe they split us in half. So I think it was like 22 girls on each team. Um, I honestly don't even remember the way that the game went, like which side won, because it was just so cool to be
Yeah,
playing there, and I like just, you know, thought it was the coolest thing. So, but it was really special, and I remember my dad came with me, so it was cool to share that moment with him.
nice. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. I guess transitioning to the college level, when did you start your college recruiting process, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so it looked a lot different, I feel like, than it is these days for the kids. But it was, I would say, early on in high school, or I don't remember the exact like date, but whenever you were allowed to talk to colleges and things like that, I had gone on a couple tours, like to some bigger schools. I remember I had toured Penn State, West Virginia, things like that. I had toured Colgate and UB. And I actually committed to Colgate University I want to say early in my junior year of high school is when I committed to go there and to play soccer there.
Nice. I guess walk us through your thought process as you decided to commit to Colgate and why you chose them of some of the schools that you were looking at as well.
Yeah, so when I got to Colgate, I really, really enjoyed the soccer program that I observed there. And at that time, there was a real, like a handful of girls from Buffalo actually who were on the team. They were pretty high level players. So it was kind of a draw for me to go there, that they were already there from Buffalo. I figured could be a really cool experience. At that time, Colgate was, they had won a couple Patriot League championships. So at the time it felt like a good fit for me, and I was offered there and things like that. So at the end of the day I made that decision and ended up signing to play there.
Your first year at Colgate, you had to redshirt due to an injury. I guess how did that injury come about? And I guess how difficult was it to have to sit out your first year of the college level?
Yeah, so that was really, really tough. I ended up tearing my ACL, my right ACL, I want to
Oh
say like
wow.
a few months before actually going to Colgate. So it was like beginning of the summer actually. And I was just training with my club team and getting ready for college and super excited to go in like fit and in shape and things like that. And I ended up tearing my ACL. So I had surgery, and then about, what 3 or 4 weeks later, I left to go join the team at Colgate for preseason as a freshman. And that was really hard for me. When you grow up playing soccer every day and then you commit to go to college to play, and then this major injury happens and just totally like throws you off. It was a really hard transition because I had my mind set on going and playing soccer there. So when that's taken away and then you're there and you're trying to show that you're a good teammate and be involved and stuff, but it was definitely taxing. For me, and just not being able to really like be on the field and find that joy in playing the game was a really difficult time. But looking back, like I learned so much about myself during that time, and things like that. And it's easy now to look back on and say that, but of course, in the moment when you're there and rehabbing and going through everything, but not being able to play, it's really hard. And I hear of kids, I coach in the area, and I hear of kids tearing their ACLs and things like that, going through these major injuries. And I really feel for them because it's hard. But at the end of the day, if you stay the course and, if you want it bad enough, you can always get through it. But it's just really about navigating those really difficult times and, coming out on the other end.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine how tough that must have been, right? For you to be playing soccer since you were five, and then to have it be such a big part of your life, and then be so excited to go to college and be playing the sport you love at that high level, and then to have that, long-term injury. I can only imagine how tough that must have been. But kudos to you for pushing through and being able to manage and continue to get a successful college career. So, after Colgate, you decided to transfer to UB. I guess talk to us about your decision to move over to Buffalo.
Yeah, I when I committed to Colgate, it really felt like the right fit. I think being there, it didn't feel like the right fit for me. It's a really small school, a few hours away, and some people who go there absolutely love it. Just for me personally, it wasn't the right fit. And I kind of learned that, and I don't know, maybe the injury played a role in that, but overall, I felt like transferring to UB. Back home, my family could come watch as much as they wanted. And UB was kind of always a school there in the recruiting process. So I just, kind of felt strongly that I wanted to end up at UB. So I made that decision and joined the team. I was actually still kind of rehabbing my knee, when I joined the team. So there was a period of time where I wasn't able to like do contact and things like that. But eventually, when I got out on the other end of the injury, and was able to join the UB team, I was happy with my decision, and I think it worked out well for me.
Yeah, nice. It looked have worked out for you because that first season at UB, you jumped right into the starting lineup and scored 3 goals and had 5 assists. I guess what was the adjustment like for you, right? Going from, I guess you didn't really adjust that first year because you were out injured, but coming from high school and club to adjusting to D1 level, what was the adjustment like for you?
I think anytime you jump to college, whether it's D1, D2, or D3, there's always going to be an adjustment. You know, you're playing with older players, more physical, faster players, and just players who, have know the ropes and have been around and kind of know the routine. So it was definitely a transition for me. And I think it was hard because it was like the transition to college soccer, but then it was also the transition from this like major injury that had happened to me. And just, I had to like relearn when you go through something like that, you have to relearn how to walk again, let alone play soccer and play at that level that I was at before the injury happened. So that first season, like, in my mind now when I hear like, oh, 3 goals, I'm like, oh, like, why didn't I get more goals? But I really just try to give I during that time was just trying to be patient with myself because, like you said, it is a transition and an adjustment. And, that jump from high school soccer and club soccer to college soccer is a lot, no matter what level you're playing at. So I think just being patient with yourself, staying the course, and just, knowing that sometimes it takes time and it takes time to come back from an injury and time, to transition. So both of those things kind of were playing a role during that season. But, I'm really proud of that season because it's easy to quit or to kind of sulk your way through things if they're not going your way. But ultimately, I knew that I was kind of setting the foundation for my career at UB during that season. And, I'm really happy with the way that that went.
Nice. Yeah. And I think you're being hard on yourself there because 3 goals and 5 assists, your first season after an injury like that, it's quite impressive, right? I mean, you play like what, 18, 20 games a season. So you were involved in about half the games that you played in. So quite impressive there because to your point, it's hard, right? Like for me personally, I struggle with like the speed of play, the physicality, all of those different aspects of college level, and that can sometimes make it harder. But I think you did a good job of transitioning, especially after that injury. Um, your sophomore year at GB, you had a great season, right? Led the team in goals with 10 and made the conference second team. I guess talk to us about your preparation and mindset going to that second season at UB.
Yeah, that second season, I really felt like, okay, like I'm over this injury. I've been training now for a while. So that season, I remember like the summer leading up to it, I was like training like crazy, working out like crazy, just because I felt like I was finally, there and in college soccer, and I had kind of gotten into that routine. So, that season was, I think, really positive for me personally, just because like I said, I was, kind of finally over that hump and I was in the swing of things. And, even just like mentally for me to have a season like that, I think was really, really helpful. And again, just kind of, setting that foundation and, things like that for the years to come.
Yeah, and then you follow up that season with an amazing junior and senior year, right? Making the first team all conference despite missing the latter half of your senior year due to another injury. Talk to us about that second injury. How did that come about? And I guess how tough was it again to have to like have this injury at your senior year and then not have be able to finish the season?
Really, really hard. That's all I would say to that one. It's, so I like I said, I tore my ACL going into college, redshirted my freshman year. So that senior season was technically my fifth year. So I was,
Hmm.
playing about half that season, and then I ended up tearing my left ACL. And leading up to
Wow.
that, I was having like my best season that I had had so far at UB. I was like leading the league in goals and assists and things like that. Our team was doing really well. We were being successful. So that injury happened, and in that moment, like I knew what it felt like. I knew my college career was over. And it was really emotional, honestly, because I had felt like, I spent so much time and energy kind of getting over that first ACL tear and finally back to a point where I'm having my best season yet. And then it happens again. And, it was just, it's one of those things that you cannot control. It was non-contact, just like my first one was. It's like one of those really unfortunate situations where something happens to you and you just kind of have to like take it. You really can't put the blame on anyone. So it was hard. It was a really, really hard ending to college soccer for me. I had really supportive teammates and coaches at the time who really helped me get through that season, and my family, of course. But yeah, there's really no other way to describe it besides like being heartbroken because, um, just all like I had said, from club to high school soccer to the college year, the injury, the other college seasons, like all this stuff you look back on and it's like, okay, it's finally gotten me to this point of having this awesome season, and then literally in like the blink of an eye it just ends. And I think for me too, it was very like final because I knew, that was my fifth year. I think I had played actually like one or two games that season. Otherwise, I like too many. Otherwise, I could have taken a sixth year, which, who knows at that point. But it was just so like, this is it, and it was hard. It was really, really hard to get through, the rest of that season. And even to finish out college, like, I it had never crossed my mind to drop out or anything like that, but just to like get up and, you're as athletes, like I don't want to say we're there to play soccer because you have to go to class and you want to get your degree because really that's what sets you up for life. But it just was so, heartbreaking. So definitely a hard finish to college. But I got through it, and I think that's what's most important that I can look back on now is, yeah, another hard thing that you got through, right? So things, that come up in life, I know that I have that resiliency to get through.
Wow, yeah, and I think that's probably the takeaway there. I mean, kudos to you for you to get through college, right? Because it's such a big part of your life. Like you've had this for a long time, and then to have one ACL is like hard enough, but then to have one your last year, you're having your best season. I could only imagine how tough that must have been mentally, and then have to go through the therapy, right? Having to try to rehab that, and yeah, like all I can say is kudos to you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was just going to add, it was so different at that point going through rehab because it was like, okay, well, what am I, rehabbing for? And I always had aspirations to play after college, but at that point you're injured. I didn't know what was going to come up. I really wanted to be in the NWSL draft that following year,
Hmm.
but you know, teams aren't going to take you when you're injured and rehabbing and things like that unless you're like a really high known player. So, it was kind of the unknown as I was rehabbing, but I think in the back of my mind I was like, okay, prove this to yourself that you can, that you can do this and you can get back. And that's really the mindset that I had throughout that rehab process, and I think that's what really helped me and motivated me.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to hear that because to your point earlier, right? Like it's another hard thing you have to go through, and so when things happen, in life outside of maybe sports, you can like look back on this experience and it wasn't great and things could have gone better, but you can look back and like I've gone through that and that will help me now with this new challenge. I was gonna ask like what the gap was, right? Because you had a couple years from like when you finished at UB to like when you played with FC Buffalo. So I was gonna ask what that time was, but it looked like you were rehabbing with your ACL.
Yeah, so I was rehabbing, and I actually started a grad school program. So after that year, I was like still injured, still rehabbing. I'm like, okay, well, I got to do something, something with my life, right? And the degree that I got in undergrad, I knew that I was going to have to go to grad school because I wanted to be a school psychologist, and you need your master's degree for that. So, I was lucky enough to get into the program at UB, so I stayed local for that. And that was a 3-year program. So I had started it, and then as I was going through it, I was rehabbing, but there was kind of a part where I was done rehabbing, but then I really began to train again because I didn't want to drop out of my grad school program. And it was 3 years. So that's, kind of a significant amount of time. But, I believe, like, I always think, education is really important. And no matter what happened with soccer, like I wanted to make sure that I was setting myself up to have a career outside of that. So I was rehabbing and then playing again, just like on some of like the local co-ed teams or women's leagues and things like that, just really getting back into it. And throughout grad school, I really kind of like fell in love with the game again. And I felt like I had such like unfinished business in my mind, because of my career getting cut short in college. And I don't know, I just had this like motivation about me throughout grad school where I was, studying and getting my degree, but then I'm like, okay, like I'm going to do something with soccer still. I just don't know exactly what. Um, and then it was like kind of the perfect storm. The FC Buffalo owner, Nick Mendola, had reached out to me. I didn't know who he was really at first. He called me one day and he was like, hey, like I've heard your name around the area. We have this, men's FC Buffalo team. I'm trying to start a women's team. Would you be interested? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect for me. um, so it really, like, I felt really lucky, and it just felt like a really great opportunity. And now kind of looking back, like I've kind of, I don't want to say I've grown up with the FC Buffalo women's team, but I really had been there since the start. We had an advisory board at the very beginning before, as the team was forming the first year with that I was a part of. And so I feel a real, like, a big sense of like connection to it. We're going into our fourth year coming up, next summer. But just being able to have that opportunity, I felt so thankful that for some reason at that point of time in my life, Nick wanted to make a women's side, because really without FC Buffalo, I don't think I would have gotten the chance to go overseas, because, there wasn't that high of a level of a team for women in Buffalo. So, I mean, I think like Rochester had a team at the time. Before I had known about FC Buffalo, I was maybe considering that, but, it kind of allowed me to like finish my degree and get my master's, but also play, in the summers at, the semi-professional level. So I was really excited about FC Buffalo and happy for that opportunity.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really happy the timing worked out really well for you there, because so you spent 2 seasons with them. You scored 13 goals and had 16 assists in 25 games, which is quite impressive, right? That's 26 goal contribution in 25 games, quite impressive. Yeah, and I'm really happy that was like a stepping stone for you to go professional and play overseas. I guess, how did your opportunity to be able to play with I think, is it MedKila?
Yep, MedKila.
How did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, so like I said, when I started playing for FC Buffalo, I kind of knew, if an opportunity had come my way to, play beyond that, I was going to take it. Um, and so during that, kind of the end of the first season, heading into the second season, I worked with my assistant coach at the time at UB, Casey Durkes. He had some connections, and he was, really interested in helping, connect some of his former players to teams overseas if, that's what they wanted. And he had contacted one of my old ODP coaches, actually, who is the coach at St. John's. And he had some connections overseas. So, I always think about the timing of everything. And after that second season with FC Buffalo, they were really kind of going out on a limb and trying to help me get an opportunity. They knew how much like it meant to me. And I'm so thankful that like Casey had, really wanted to help at the time and was willing to, because I don't think I could have gotten that opportunity without, the help from others. Um, but the team that I had gone to, MedKila, they were looking for players. It was mid-season over there in Norway. And they were kind of going down, like they were, in fear of getting relegated at the time. So they were looking to bring players in to try and help them kind of build their way up. And again, it was like, it didn't seem like an opportunity was going to come up right after that second season. I was almost getting ready, to, I actually had gotten a job as a school psychologist that I was, kind of about to start the school year. I was coaching. And then I got a text one day, and like it was like, okay, are you ready to go to Norway next week? And I'm like, all right, I have to tell like my employer and all that stuff. But it was one of those things where it was like such a once in a lifetime opportunity that it was almost like, how could I not take that? It was, again, like the culmination of my soccer career, these two like crazy injuries that, happened to me. And somehow here I am, like still wanting to play, still loving the game. And, it was really a no brainer in my mind that I wanted to go over there. And, I went in really not wanting to do it forever or even for years. I have a career and I had gotten into coaching along the way. I actually coached for Williamsville South at my old high school and for Playmaker Training. It's a private training facility. But I just wanted to take the opportunity and see, what came of it. I wanted to go over and experience a different culture and different people. And literally, like the week or two after that initial text message that they were looking and that they were interested in me, I was on a plane to Norway, which is crazy to think back on. But just my experience in Norway was awesome. It the team was very young compared to other teams in our league. So, we weren't able to kind of get them all the way back up, but it didn't take away at all from the experience.
Yeah, after everything you've gone through, I'm really happy to hear that that came about and you like realize your childhood dream of becoming professional. Right?
Yeah.
It's something quite deserving of your situation and your talent. I guess what was the adjustment like to the professional ranks, right? And compare that to the adjustment from high school and club to the D1 level.
Yeah, I would say, it was another little step up. It's different overseas in Norway. I guess I could only really speak for, but they don't really have like college level soccer. They play, in their clubs as kids. So actually, on my professional team, we had some high school players, and one of the players was on like the U17 Norwegian national team. So they are higher level players, but it's just a totally different landscape. But it still was, I would say, more physical. It's playing against a lot of Norwegian girls who are used to that environment. So, we were kind of, myself and a couple of my teammates who had gone over, we were kind of, like the foreign international players. But it was definitely an adjustment, and I would say I was lucky because in Norway there are a lot of like English speakers. They learn English in school, and they're not like necessarily as confident with their English, but they still can play. I know like other countries, if you go to, that's not always the case. People aren't always as willing to speak English or to try. So I was really thankful for that. My coach could speak some English, so I didn't feel like there was a huge language barrier. But of course, still the girls on the team are more comfortable speaking Norwegian to each other, so that was a little bit of an adjustment. And even just like being so far away from home and different foods and things like that you have to adjust to. So it's not just the soccer adjustment or the level of play. It's like the whole experience and your whole lifestyle. But I knew that going in, so I was just kind of, open to, whatever experiences came my way there.
Nice. What was it just like living in Norway? What was it like in terms of like the culture, the people, the food, everything?
The people were so welcoming and so nice. It was really kind of cold where I was. It started off kind of warmer. So I was in a city called Harstad. So it's like kind of, when you look at Norway on a map, it's not in the area you would think it is. It's like all the way up. So it was like by the Arctic Circle. So the time of year that I was there, they were getting into like the time of year where the sun doesn't really come up there. I wasn't there for that, but like at some days by towards the end of my stay there, the sun was setting at like 2:30 or 3 o'clock. So it was really cool just because it was so different. But Norway is a beautiful country. I mean, if anyone has the chance to go over, like I want to go back just for vacation purposes and like to see it more. But it's just so pretty with the water and the mountains, and it was just different than Buffalo, or what I see here. So that was really cool to experience, just like the landscape and environment and things like that. But yeah, I would say like a little bit of a slower pace of life too than what I'm used to here. So it was cool just to see kind of like the appreciation that people have over there for their time and their lifestyle and things like that. So it was cool. I'm really happy that I took that opportunity. And it was hard at the time, almost, because it's like, okay, I just got this new job and I just started coaching these players, and then I'm like, at the back of my mind, it was just, one more, the last thing I wanted to check off of my soccer career. So, all in all, I'm happy I trusted my gut feeling and went over and did it.
Awesome. It sounds like you had a great time, and I'm actually going to visit Norway this fall, so I'm excited to do that. So looking forward
Oh,
to it.
that's awesome. I'm jealous, but that'll be a really good trip.
Yeah, I want to do Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and maybe Iceland too. But we'll see how much
Yeah,
time I have.
that's gonna be awesome.
Um, I want to wrap this up now. I want to be mindful of your time. But I guess looking back over your soccer career, what would you say has been the highlight of your soccer journey?
I think there's a couple things. I think first and foremost, I would say the highlight was definitely signing a professional contract and going over to Norway just because of what it meant. Like going through those injuries that I did played a huge role on my life, and being able to come out the other side of something that is so difficult, I would say, as a younger person, to get through and to just stay motivated and to keep the love of the game for myself, even though sometimes I hated it because I'm like, how could it's going to be another year before I can play again, and I have to put in all this time to rehab. But that love for the game always kind of kept creeping back in, especially towards the end of rehab as I started to get to playing again. So to have that opportunity after everything that I had gone through, really just means the most to me. And I'm like so proud of myself for not only getting that, but then also going and doing it, just because I could have came up with a million reasons maybe not to go over and play, but I really think that I needed that for myself and for the culmination of seeing clubs, high school, college, and FC Buffalo and semi-professional through, and that was just like, oh, I felt like I had kind of like not made it, but just like, this is what you wanted, and like this is what you have been working for all this time, and it made like all of those struggles and things like that worth it. So you know that's what I would say is the highlight.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, the mental resilience to be able to kind of come back from now one but two ACL and then be able to go pro is quite incredible. So kudos to you there. I think I know the answer to this one, but on the flip side, what would you say had been the low light of your soccer journey?
Yeah, I think I've talked a lot about it, but I would say just those ACL injuries, and specifically I would say like the first couple months of those injuries. And I would even, I guess, say, that second injury that ended my UB career and my college career, that was definitely the lowest point in my soccer journey. And just, all the emotions that come with a season ending injury, let alone a career ending injury. So, that was definitely my lowest. But like I said, you need the highs and the lows, right? In sports, that's always going to happen, and it's just about your reaction and how you get through those moments that will determine, where you end up.
For sure, for sure. You've dropped some valuable gems here, and I'm sure a lot of the younger players watching these will be appreciative of that. But just any like final thoughts or advice for young soccer players?
I think my biggest piece of advice would just be to, play the game because you love it, not because, your parents are making you, or you feel like it's something you should do, or you want a college soccer, scholarship, or you want to post on Instagram or things like that. Because I think when I look back at my career, um, the love that I feel for the game and the joy that I get while playing it is always what has motivated me to get through those really hard times, right? And to get through that transition from high school to college, the level of play, and to get through the injuries. And I don't think I would have been able to get through that stuff if I didn't have like an internal drive for myself and an internal feeling of just enjoying what I'm doing. Because I think at the end of the day, if that's coming from outside factors, whatever the case may be, then I don't think it's sustainable, and I don't think that will, lead to a long, successful career. So I would just say, play the game because you love it, and let that love for the game and the passion for the game carry you through, the lows and the highs of it.
For sure. Absolutely hit it right in the head there. I think there's absolutely no way you would have gone through all of that if you didn't love it, right? It's really insightful advice there. I guess I'm going to switch to the last segment of the podcast where I ask my guests these similar, like rapid fire type questions. For the first one, best player you ever played with?
Yeah, I would say some of the girls over in Norway. I don't have specific names for you, but some of the girls on our team who have the national team experience, I would say those were definitely the best players I've played with.
Makes sense. And then on the flip side, the best player you ever played against?
Yeah, I would say, again, when I was in Norway, I played against some girls who had like, Manchester United women experience. I remember specifically one game we were playing. There was a girl on the other team who used to play for the Manchester United women's team, and she was definitely the best player I would say that I played against. Just top to bottom. You can just tell her technique. Like she's been places in life. So I would say that for sure.
Nice. Messi or Ronaldo?
I got to go with Messi. I'm more of a Messi fan than Ronaldo.
Fair, fair. And then last question for you. Start one, bench one, and sell one. Mia Hamm, Abby Wambach, Alex Morgan.
Whew. I think I'm going to start Mia Hamm, bench Alex Morgan, sell Abby Wambach. But that's a hard one. I like all three of those players. So if I had to choose, I think that would be it. But I still like Abby Wambach.
Yeah, she's a Rochester native. I appreciate your time here. This has been super insightful, and I really enjoyed talking to you today. I guess where people want to continue to follow your journey, where can they find you?
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I had a great time. If people want to follow the journey, they can, follow the FC Buffalo Instagram as well as Playmaker Training. That's where I coach. And yeah, they don't really need to follow me on Instagram. I don't post anything very exciting.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks again for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Have a good day.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen and support this podcast. It is very much appreciated. Please follow the show if you don't already do so. The show can be found on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and the rest of the other major platforms. As always, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Much love. This show is produced by Deu Awuok and original music by Scott Holmes.